Yes, thanks again for being with me for this long and for the continuation of this presentation titled I Am Black and I Am Proud, Another Perspective, which is from, this presentation is from my series of presentations, The Redemption from the Curse of the Black Spell. So here's a quick review of some of the main points that I have covered so far in part 1 to what is part 4. In part 1, I dissect and explain for you portions of the infamous Willie Lynch's letter, a letter that contains his scientific and very meticulously well engineered black formula for breaking and making as slaves. A black formula for the perpetual maintenance of the slavery economic system. And by black formula, I mean his evil formula, his wicked formula, his diabolic formula. For your information, that's what the word black also means. By so doing, I placed great emphasis on the portion of his letter that dealt with the control of language. And there we saw how he and his fellow British countrymen, his fellow slave masters and their heirs and successors today, I might also add, violently destroyed and suppressed the native and original language, the mother tongue of our African ancestors. We saw how these barbarians, these savages, Willie Lynch, his cohorts, and his heirs, descendants, or successors, I might also add, or I might also remind you, instituted a brand new language for our ancestors, the African slaves, and for us today. A bastardized version, I might add, of the English language, a language that was not only designed to mentally abuse and confuse the minds and intellect of our ancestors, but also it was, and it is, a language that was concocted to keep them and us, their descendants today, in almost complete ignorance of their elite slave masters' language, the true slavery economic system language, his true English language. You have also seen and learned that it was not the intention of the barbarians, the human traffickers, the slave masters, Willie Lynch and his cohorts back then, and that it's definitely not their intention or the intention of their heirs and successors today to have us truly know and understand their language. So, here in this, the remaining section, I will continue to share with you some more of my perspective in an attempt to give you a more deeper insight into the word black that is found in the statement, I'm black and I'm proud, while continuing to answer the questions posed in part 1, namely, if the word black and Negro were not good names, then why did our great leaders and heroes such as Marcus Garvey, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and others called themselves black, and the people they led and represented blacks and Negroes? First, let me examine the roles that those three very distinguished individuals played and the time or era in which they acted out their roles. According to the record, Marcus Garvey was a great man who loved his people dearly and did many great things in an attempt to help enhance their self-awareness, their consciousness, and their self-esteem and their overall well-being. That was Marcus Garvey. And not only was he about enhancing their self-awareness, their self-esteem and well-being, but he was a firm believer in repatriation. And as such, he had dedicated most of his life teaching and promoting the idea of us, the descendants of slaves, African slaves, the victims and exploits of the European slavery economic system, and particularly the African Americans resettling in the motherland that is today called Africa. However, from my perspective, he, like many others then and now, did not in the least understand the meaning and significance of the word black and the curse, the spell, the bad, the black or the evil omen of being called and labeled black and Negro. He just, like many others with him then, and almost every one of you today in the 21st century, in this that is known as the Aquarian age, the age of spiritual growth and enlightenment, the age of freedom of thoughts and expression. Over 70 years after his death, simply took, accepted and embraced the word, the adjective, the name, the title, the label, the listing and the profile black from the slave masters and their heirs and successors as a word that was innocently, as a word that was only innocently referring to the complexion of their skin. Wrong. Like many of you today, he simply did not know or understand the trick that was being played upon him by the system. For if he had known the true meaning, the literal and spiritual significance of the word black, he would not have named his movement the Black Nationalism or the Black Nationalism Movement. He would not have named his association the United Negro Improvement Association. He would not have named or called his several businesses black businesses. He would not have called the separatist nation that he was trying to establish within the borders of the United States of America a black nation. He would not have called his shipping company, which from my perspective was one of his most ambitious business ventures. He would not have called it the Black Star Line. He would not have called the association he had founded for the series, for his series of companies, the Negro or the Black Factories Association. He would not have called his teaching, had he had known the meaning of this word, he would not have called his teaching and philosophy for separation, political, social, and economic freedom for his people. He would not have called it black. And from my perspective, as a metaphysician, speaking from a metaphysical mindset, that is one of the reasons, if not the main reasons, why all of his businesses and his noble endeavors failed. Because he, Marcus Garvey, did not know and understand the occult, subversive, and destructive low frequency vibrations that are enveloped in the words black and Negro. Not only did his businesses fail, or his businesses which he had labeled, listed, profiled, called, named black, failed, but they failed miserably. There is very little remnant, if at all, any vestige of any of his businesses to be found today. And I can and I will suggest that all black businesses or organizations that are called black will experience and encounter great internal conflicts, fatal mistrust, betrayal, they will stagnate and eventually fail, regardless of how firm, strong, and progressive they may now appear to be today. It is just a matter of time, for as long as they are called black, named black, labeled black, classified and profiled as black, they are going down. For if the past is in any way or in any wise indicative of the present and the future, then from my perspective, it is not if they will fail, but when they all failed. Get rid of the word black. If Marcus Garvey had known that there were some truly black people, meaning evil people, black energy vampires, corrupted minded and black minded or bad minded people around him, some if not all of which he may have trusted with his life, trusted with his businesses, trusted with his reputation. Maybe if he had known maybe that these type of people were around him, maybe he would not have been betrayed by who? Black people, meaning evil people. And maybe he would not have been convicted by the system for committing mail fraud and sent to prison to dwell amongst who? Black people. And what is the other word or the other name for mail fraud? Do you know? It is called blackmail. Mail fraud, blackmail. If he had known, maybe this would not have happened. A thought-provoking question for you. Just food for thought. I want you to think about this. I will ask that you ask yourselves this thought-provoking question. And it goes like this. How many multi-million-dollar businesses or multi-billion-dollar corporations that you, my viewer, are aware of today that is named black anything or that have the word black in its name? For example, a multi-million-dollar businesses or a multi-billion-dollar corporations called Black X companies, or that is called black-owned companies that you are aware of that are currently being traded on any of the major global stock exchanges. Traded, business stock exchanges. Very few, if at all, any. And I am not aware of any. And why? I will take the liberty and submit that it is that if it or they are black, or if it or they, these companies, are called black, they won't get too far. Because the word black is a curse word. The word black and Negro is a word that is keeping all of its victims, its businesses or humans, whether victims, businesses or humans, under subjection, in stagnation, in darkness, in blackness, and they can't survive where there is light or in the world of light. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is known the world over as one of America's greatest civil rights leaders. Here are something that I found interesting while reading, or rather, here is something that I found quite interesting while reading up on Dr. King on a website called thekingcenter.org. I found that he understood the power of words, and I quote, "While others were advocating for freedom by any means necessary, including violence, Martin Luther King Jr. used the power of words and acts of nonviolent resistance such as protests, grassroots organizing, and civil disobedience to achieve seemingly impossible goals. He went on to lead similar campaigns against poverty and international conflict, always maintaining fidelity to his principles that men and women everywhere, regardless of color or creed, are equal members of the human family, unquote. The main point that I want to emphasize here, my friends, is that according to these commentaries, or this commentator, this writer or researcher, Dr. King understood the power of words. However, from my perspective, and the evidence has shown that even though he understood the power of words and how to use them well to preach, to lead, to comfort, to calm, and to inspire his people, even though he was and is known as one of the world's greatest speakers and orators of all times, the record will show that if the word black does mean, if the word black in the English language means what the English dictionary say it does mean, then he did not know or understood the power of words from an occult, mystic, and metaphysical mindset. For to the best of my knowledge, Dr. King did not study metaphysics, nor was he involved in mysticism, occultism, nor was he a metaphysician, but to the best of my knowledge, he was a devout Baptist Christian minister. Some of his followers, critics and admirers, even call him a fundamentalist Baptist Christian minister. And most Christians, or most people who call themselves Christians then and now, have very little, if at all, any knowledge, interest in, or any tolerance for that matter, for the occult, for mysticisms and metaphysics. In fact, most Christians are taught to be fearful and to be superstitious about these sciences and these types of esoteric teachings. He did not know, nor did he understood the power of words, or did not know or understood the power and the meaning of the hypnotic curse. Let me repeat that, so you don't take me out of context. He, Dr. King, did not know, from my perspective, he did not know, nor did he understand the power and the meaning of the hypnotic curse and spell word black. He did not know or understand the very low frequency and the metaphysical powers and vibrations that are enveloped, packaged in the word black, and the destructive mental, spiritual, and metaphysical effects it has on those upon whom it is pronounced, and those upon whom it is bestowed or conveyed. And in ignorance of these facts, he, along with his people, accepted and embraced to their ultimate demise the curse word black. For if he, Dr. King, had known these facts, if he had the deep linguistic, semantic, etymological, philosophical, and metaphysical insight into the word black, had these facts been revealed to him, then from my perspective, as the honest, as the man of honesty and integrity and forthrightness that he was known and is said to have been, then true to such character, he would not have called himself black. He would not have deliberately called his people black. He would not have told them to say, and I quote, "Say it loud, I am black and I'm proud." Please join me for part 6. Gets even better.